I call the meeting of the Committee on Energy, Finance, and Policy to order. We have a quorum. Members, today we have 3 bills that will be hitting up. Our first item of business is the approval of the minutes. Representative Murphy, have you had an opportunity to?
Yes, I have, and I so moved.
All right. Representative Murphy moves approval of the minutes for March 18th, 2025. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor say aye. The ayes have it. I could tell. We're all good to go. They were good minutes. So anyway, all right. So with that, we have House File 701, Representative Johnson. If you want to move your bill before the committee, and we'll let you get after it.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Members, do we want to put the amendment on the bill first? So we get
Hang on a second. Representative Johnson, I'll move your bill. We move House File 701 for possible inclusion in a other bill, or we're just, yeah, so that's our motion. All right, we'll be laying the bill over. So to your bill, Representative Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I also have a author's amendment that I would like to put on.
There you go. Igo, would you like to, Representative Igo, do you want to move the amendment for Representative Johnson?
Mr. Chair, I'll move the author's amendment.
All right. All in favor? Oh, Bob, you want, sorry.
I got to bounce a little bit.
Representative, Mr. Eloff, did you want to get, explain the amendment?
Mr. Chair, on the amendment, the H0701A3 amendment, there are 2 oral amendments. I just found another one. On line 1.2, before 10 million, insert parentheses A, close parentheses, and delete 2025 and insert 2026.
Okay, so we have the amendment, the A3 amendment with the A in front of the 10 million and then the year change of it as an oral amendment to 2026. Is there any discussion to the author's amendment? All in favor? Aye. All opposed? The ayes have it. All right. To you, Representative Johnson, to your bill as amended.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members. As a former county commissioner, I know you've heard that more than once, for Washington County, I was part of the Energy and Recycling Board, and that was developed in the efforts for diversion of garbage, basically from landfills. There was a 75% requirement or mandate or came down from the state regarding diversion. And Washington County and Ramsey partnered together and created the Recycling and Energy Center down there in those efforts. That was a number of years ago. We've continued to work towards that in very different efforts. And one of them, the newest effort is right now is working on organics. And part of the organics is what do you do with the organics when you start collecting? If you're in Ramsey County or Washington County, a lot of people are starting to have bags delivered that they're putting their organics in, and this is an effort to deal with that. So I am pleased to present House File 701, a request for funding to support the construction of an anaerobic digester to process food waste in Minnesota. Let's see, I am aware there are ongoing conversations regarding the Renewable Development Account, and I defer to the wisdom of the body about the best funding source. This is a large project with an overall price tag of $100 million, and we are grateful for any funding this committee can provide to move us towards fulfilling the last $10 million of funding need. This anaerobic digester will be the first of its kind in the Midwest and presents an exciting new opportunity to create a homegrown source of energy here in Minnesota. You will see in your packet a number of letters of support for this effort. I will now turn it over to my testifiers, Commissioner Miron, and also Bill Keegan, who is the president of DEMCON, to tell you more about this project and why it helps to move us towards creating reliable, renewable energy for Minnesota. Who would like to? go first.
All right, if you'd like to introduce yourself for the committee, and we look forward to your testimony.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm Washington County Commissioner Fran Miron. I serve as Vice Chair of the Ramsey Washington Recycling and Energy Board, which Representative Johnson was talking about, and I also chair the Partnership on Waste to Energy. This project is the exciting next step in a multi-year effort to get organics out of our landfills and move up the waste management hierarchy. Organics, such as discarded food scraps, make up over 20% of the collected trash. By addressing this waste and finding a beneficial use for it, we move towards Minnesota's statutory mandated 75% recycling and a 15% waste reduction by 2023. The Recycling and Energy Board, a joint powers board of Washington and Ramsey County, recently launched an innovative food scrap pickup program to ensure that all households in the two counties have the option to recycle their food scraps easily from home without requiring additional bins or trucks on our roads. The Recycling and Energy Board has entered into a 20-year contract agreement to provide those food scraps and other organic rich material to the DEMCON facility for processing by anaerobic digestion. This facility will provide 75,000 tons per year of new organic processing capacity in Minnesota. By keeping these organics out of the landfills and using them for energy, we are producing a reduction of greenhouse gas emissions equivalent to removing over 7,000 gas-powered vehicles from the road each year. We are committed to pursuing this next level in waste management and renewable energy production for Minnesota. This facility will be more than just a local asset. We've connected with several other counties who are watching what we're doing and are interested in setting up similar programs for their communities. At your discretion, Mr. Chair, I'd like to turn it over to Mr. Keegan to talk about the specifics.
Thanks to you, Mr. Miron. Mr. Keegan, if you want to introduce yourself for the committee.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, Representatives, Bill Keegan, President of DEMCON Companies. DEMCON Companies is a third-generation family-owned company. We have our facilities down in Shakopee, actually Louisville Township in Scott County, just on the south side of Shakopee proper. And we are a waste processing, recycling, and disposal company. And if you think about us sort of at our core from the highest level, we are a facility owner and operator, and our customers are the haulers. So think of the folks that go around to your curbs and pick up the bins at your curb. Those would be our customers, and we're the ones that have the facilities. Kind of the where the waste goes would be us. So I want to tell you a little bit about this project and a little bit about kind of who DEMCON is and why we got involved with this. We strive to provide the services that our customers need, from disposal to recycling and processing. We are originally 3 generations ago a landfill company, because that's how waste was managed. And we've really been seen as a landfill company that's embraced landfill diversion and processing and recycling. And so we look for economically viable and sustainable options to provide that services for our customers within sort of the regulatory framework. So that's sort of the high level, and drilling down a little bit from that. 8 years ago, I saw an opportunity and a lack of infrastructure for processing of organics. As we have a regulatory environment that is setting recycling goals such as 75% by 2030 and a 15% waste reduction by 2030. We have 100% clean energy by 2040 and carbon neutral by 2050. So that's the regulatory environment that's supportive of this, and we were lacking infrastructure for processing organics. So we started researching a project 8 years ago, which was an anaerobic digestion project to produce renewable natural gas and biochar from the food waste. Our relationship with Washington and Ramsey counties and other counties in the metro is on a supply side. They would supply the organics to our facility, and then our facility would recycle those and process those into those products I mentioned. And then we would, on the back end, sell the renewable natural gas to the major utilities, CenterPoint and Xcel Energy. CenterPoint and Xcel Energy both put this project in their plans to the Public Utility Commission, which were approved for purchasing the gas. So you have the supply of the materials, the technology, and then the offtake is sort of the process that we've developed. over the last 8 years. Just real quick on the technology, if you will, so that people understand it. At its simplest and really what it is it's very similar to your stomach. It's like a human stomach. It's a closed vessel. It has microbes in there. You put the food in, and it processes the food, and it produces liquids, solids, and gases. The gases are collected as renewable natural gas, and we would connect directly to the pipeline and sell those. We would be able to provide enough gas annually to heat about 2,500 homes. So it gives you kind of a scale of the gas production. The liquids get reincorporated back into the vessel, and then the solids that come out is called digestate. That can either be composted, or we take it through another process called a biochar process, where we make biochar, which is essentially just charcoal, activated charcoal. Think of the charcoal in your Brita water filter. So what that is it's a high temperature process without oxygen. If you have oxygen in there, you make ash like your fireplace. If you don't, you make carbon that is still remaining, and that's what we would have. So we would have this biochar, this carbon product, and we would have renewable natural gas. I mentioned what the natural gas is used for. The biochar is used for soil amendment. It's like putting sponges in the soil. It holds nutrients and moisture and makes the soil better. And it can also be used for remediation projects. It acts like the Brita filter, so it can remove things from water or soil or air. And then it can be used for remediation projects and also for carbon sequestration. So that's a little bit about the technology in our company and how we got here. And really this funding really helps enable this project to move forward. This project is economically viable and sustainable, and it does not need ongoing subsidies of any sort. We are a third-generation family-owned business. We don't want to get into a business that requires ongoing subsidies. So this is really the ability to start it up and be able to move forward with the project.
Okay. All right. Are there any questions for these folks? Go ahead, Representative Jones.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Representative Johnson, for bringing this to us. This is a really exciting project. Yeah, actually, my husband and I, we had run a small composting facility about 10 years ago, so I love this so much. One question, I think, to your testifier here, you had mentioned that Ramsey and Washington County are now picking up compost without bins. Did I hear that correctly? And I'm curious if you can just enlighten me about that.
Mr. Miron?
Mr. Chair, thank you. Representative, what we've developed is a program called our Food Scrap Pickup Program, and we've been rolling that out through Washington and Ramsey counties over a period of time. The legislature invested some money in our facility in AI technology, robotic technology, that recognizes a colored bag that food scraps are put into. We make that very convenient. Those bags are delivered to residents' household on a request basis. We monitor that. We monitor participation and are collecting data on that. But people then put their organic waste, their food scraps, into these green bags that goes into the trash cart with all of their other trash. And those bags are being separated out at our facility in Newport. We are also installing that technology now at our other collection sites, so drop-off sites in other areas of the metro, that the food scraps will be directly hauled then to the facility that Mr. Keegan is talking about. So,
Representative Jones, you have a follow-up?
Yeah, that's awesome. I love to hear that. It's very exciting. My other question was around the 2,500 homes and the renewable natural gas, so that's the equivalent. Is there, and this may be outside of the realm of this bill, but do Excel and Centerpoint already have like a focused use for those? Is it, yeah, I guess that's my question.
Mr. Keegan?
Mr. Chair, Representative, great question. Thank you. That it is part of their plan with the Public Utility Commission for using renewables. So it's part of their renewable development plan that they submitted. And I think this goes into, and this is outside my lane a little bit, so I'm not the expert here, but it goes basically into their portfolio of their renewables that they've been providing to their customers for both CenterPoint and Excel. The facility does have a greenhouse gas reduction as well of about 30,000 metric tons of CO2e per year, or 900,000 tons over the life of the facility. So that's the other kind of benefit, is the GHG reductions. It's the facility that might be part of that plan as well. To put that in context for folks that don't know what 30,000 is, because I don't know either, it's the equivalent of removing about 7,000 cars per year, or the emissions from 7,000 cars per year from the roads.
Representative Jones.
Yeah, wonderful. Thank you. Thank you for bringing this bill.
Representative Tapke.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. And I don't have any questions about the bill. I just want to make sure to put my support out there for it, because it's a really great project that is happening. It used to be in my district before redistricting, and now it's adjacent to my district, and DEMCON does just a really great job with everything they do. And if you are ever down in the area, they do really great tours for the recycling facilities and things that are there, so happy to join anybody there. But this is a really important project for handling a huge need that we have in the metro. So appreciate everyone's support and continue to move forward.
Representative Hollins.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you so much, Rep. Johnson, for bringing this forward. You already know I'm a huge fan of it. I love to see you up there doing this, because also it just gives me all the warm fuzzies to know that this is really like a bipartisan effort and it's something we can all get behind. I wanted to ask just two questions. So the first one is, if you, or if somebody, maybe DEMCON, could talk a little bit about the biochar process and whether or not it is at a high enough heat to destroy PFAS, because that's something I think we're always thinking about and trying to make sure we eliminate.
Mr. Keegan.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, Representative, thank you for asking. Yes, that was something I didn't mention. It wasn't what we set out initially to do. We were making biochar to make the product that I had mentioned, right, for soil amendment and for sequestering carbon and to treat the feedstocks that we had coming to the facility. But something that we found through this process, it's a very high temperature process, so about 1,200 degrees C. And high temperature is something that's known to destroy PFAS. So we've done sampling of the inbound materials, the food waste, and it contains PFAS, which is no surprise, right? It's ubiquitous in our environment, it's in our packaging, so there's going to be PFAS in the inbound. This facility does not create any PFAS, but that high temperature process actually destroys the PFAS. So we have found it on the back end then to be non-detect for all down to detectable levels of the lab, down to parts per trillion levels. And so really encouraged about the ability for this to also be a solution for some of the PFAS issues that we're challenged with now and be able to treat for that. So thank you for asking. I forgot to mention that.
Representative Hollins, do you have a follow-up?
Thank you. Yes, Mr. Chair, I do. The other question that I have is, I know that we are talking about Ramsey Washington's organics, and I know that there's things on the horizon from other counties potentially and their organics, and I'm wondering if you are planning to strictly just be using organics, or if you're looking at other, like household organics, or are you thinking about other things that can go into an anaerobic digester? I know the first time I saw an anaerobic digester was out in the country in Germany, and they were using like waste from cows, and so just wanted to hear more about that.
Mr. Keegan.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, Representative. Yeah, so there are a lot of digesters. There are digesters in Minnesota as well, but they're usually liquid digesters. So the ones that are processing manures in the ag applications that we're used to, think of like pumps and pipes, right, in processing and digesting. Digesting is not a new technology. It's been around for, I don't know the number, hundreds of years. There's lots of them in Europe, but with ours, it's a high solids digester. So what's kind of unique is that it processes food waste collected. Now, to your question of what food waste, it can take the food waste that we are collecting from or receiving from R&E and other counties. That would be curbside collected food waste. That could be collected in the compostable bags like they're doing. It could also be collected in a separate cart like we do with our recycling. We can also accept front of house and back of house recycling and organics, which what that is front of house would be, think of going to your fast food establishment or your local restaurant where there's bins up front and you got to put the organics in one and everybody messes it up, right? So that's the dirtiest stuff because no one pays attention to the signs on the bin, but that'd be front of house. Back of house is usually a lot cleaner. That's coming out of the kitchen, right? We can talk to the chefs and say, hey, handle the waste this way. Back of house would be your grocery store. When stuff goes off product, we can do depackaging and take that as well. So it's really an opportunity to deal with all of those materials, as well as something we call FOG, which is fats, oils, and greases. Think of your fryer fat from McDonald's. That's something that's currently handled a lot of times at a wastewater treatment plant, and they don't necessarily like handling those because of the high strength and challenges of handling that at a wastewater plant. So we've been talking with the wastewater plants about handling FOG as well, and this facility is specifically built to be able to add that. It's a great material to add for making gas. And if you add too much of it, you make too much gas. So you just got to meter it in at the right amounts. But those are all the things that we can accept for feedstocks. We wouldn't be really taking manure because I think that's a different type of technology.
Representative Hollins.
Thank you. No more questions. I just can't speak highly enough of this project. I'm really excited about it. I recommend everybody go to Ramsey, Washington Recycling and Energy and see the robot arm that grabs the green bags out. It's super cool. And it's like, yeah, thank you. Thank you for bringing it. I really hope we can all support it.
Representative Carroll.
Thank you, Chair. And let me just say to Representative Hollins, I hope you like it because you're a co-author. So my question, it's kind of a threshold question regarding the collection system. I'm familiar with communities that they don't use the green bag. They have a separate container. Why did you use this approach? What are the benefits? What are the detriments to it?
Commissioner Miron.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We did a lot of research at our facility and work with various companies in identifying a compostable bag that would sustain a number of moves and collections. As you can imagine, a truck that's being dropped off at one station, the material is sorted and put on another truck and hauled to the facility or hauled to another facility. And so there was a lot of research that went into that. And subsequently, we signed a contract with a producer of the compostable bag. And the green happened to be the color that was utilized, but I know in some other communities in our research and in our area, there are bags of different colors that are being utilized, and there was some thought put into that process as well. I do want to point out, Mr. Chair, if I could, that the material that we're currently collecting is being composted. We recognize the limitations of that market. Particularly when our tests show that we have PFAS contamination within the products that we're collecting. And so this next step in anaerobic digestion is really the next step in technology that is going to provide a safe soil amendment and expand our market beyond the current compost market to the renewable natural gas. So when you're on the cutting edge of technology like this, it's a expensive investment and a costly project. We've signed contracts with DEMCON for providing a certain level of tonnage to their facility on an annual basis. And then we've done research on the participation within our counties, and we've invited other counties to come in and look at what we're doing. Encouraging maybe a broader participation to make sure that we can guarantee the tonnage of organics to the facility. But it's not only to meet our own contractual agreements that we have, but I think it's also expanding this technology that we believe in to a broader constituency, if you will. And certainly, this requires significant investment. And if we don't receive these funds, that investment will fall on the residents of Washington and Ramsey County. And we believe that what we're doing here is a template that other counties across the state of Minnesota who have similar statutory goals that we have, it's a process that can be emulated and redeveloped in other areas to serve residents all across Minnesota. And quite frankly, we believe this technology is something that could expand way beyond the state's borders even.
Representative
follow-up.
Carroll.
Very quickly. So I see your bag here. A couple questions on that. I assume it's cornstarch?
Commissioner Miron.
Yes, Mr. Chair, yes, it's a combination of materials that are all organic that break down, in the environment.
One follow-up.
Representative Carroll.
Last one. So I assume there's a failure rate with these green bags, and if so, how much is it?
The failure rate?
Yeah.
Commi-
So if
Commissioner?
these are put in the container and they spill open or they tear open or whatever, do you have any metrics as to that?
Commissioner?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and we'll get those exact numbers to you. Our research, we do have that information, and as you may well expect, the use of these bags, how they're tied, how, whether they're closed, that type of thing is very critical, so we really are involved in an educational process with participation. I just got the answer here, it's 6% failure.
All right. Good. All right. Representative Baker.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Rep. Johnson, for bringing this forward. Mr. Keegan and I have had conversations about this. I think this technology is really amazing. And I am coming at it from a little different angle, and only because I'm still on the sort of the bad rub that we had with biomass in Benson that was closed down when we tried to put turkey manure with wood chips to make power, forced it through with Xcel Energy, and that lasted half of the amount of time that was supposed to. Again, different concept, different stuff, but I just know that my community took it in the shorts when they changed gears because it was so expensive coming on the grid. What we haven't talked about is what is this going to look like, the cost of the liquid, the renewable natural gas. I haven't heard anything about that today because I know it's a part of this equation. We're getting some terrific environmental benefits from this, but at what cost is this? Can anybody answer this? Because if there's a company that's going to do this right, it's Demcom. I really believe in what you guys are doing, your vision on this, but it comes down to, is it affordable, and what is it going to do to the rest of the natural gas system? What's that look like if somebody can answer that for me?
Who'd like that one?
6%.
Mr. Keegan?
Mr. Chair, representatives, thanks for giving me the hard questions here, geez. So, yeah, no, a great point. As a private company, we're very cognizant of that as well, so I appreciate the questions, and I know we've had some conversations around this previously. We want to make sure that we are in a opportunity that is long-term and one that continues to remain economically viable. And policies change. And we saw what happened in Benson as well. We were part of that. We were working with those folks, and it was a tragedy, right? So we want to make sure that that's not us. And so what we're doing to secure that is our contractual relationships that we have on the front end are not dependent on those regulations and that regulatory environment, as well as the contracts on the back end. And I can't get into a lot of details in the public forum here, but that our back end agreements are supportive of that.
Representative Johnson?
Mr. Chair, thank you, members. I think it's, I haven't listed this. We said that it's the first in the Midwest, but I want to make sure you know also I have former Commissioner Trista Martinson, who is now Executive Director of Environmental and Recycling. And I bring that up just because, first of all, she will inform you of everything you'd ever want to know about garbage, and she's more, she'd love to have you come tour the facility. But the reason I bring it up is this has been looked into and investigated over multiple years. She and I traveled to many places to see the technology and make sure it would work. So this, while it's new here, it's not new technology. In fact, I just thought I'd throw in there too that I had a customer for my company that was from Sweden, and that's one of the places we went to visit. And it's worked so well in Sweden, they got to the point they had to start shipping in trash from Norway to keep the energy going there because it was so efficient and they were able to get it to work so well. So I just want to let you know it's new here. not new technology. It's been very well proven in many places. And so I just wanted to let you know that.
Representative Baker?
Just to follow up, Mr. Chair, again, I'm sold on the technology. I'm sold that it's going to work. It's just at what price is it going to be on the grid, right? So again, just because of my experience that I've lived through, I fully support this. I just want to make sure as we move forward, we factor that into what is it going to cost those ratepayers on, CenterPoint or whoever it is. It's part of the equation to make sure that we should be all in. Is it the RDA fund? Is it something else? Again, DEMCON is the company to do this. They are the leaders. I completely believe in Mr. Keegan and his drive on this. He gets it, and he's making significant investments himself on this thing. I just want to make sure we don't forget about that question as we walk down the road on this. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Sounds good. All right, Representative Anderson?
Thanks, Mr. Chair. My question has been partially answered. I was concerned or wondering about the tonnage needed to make the system operate efficiently, if enough could come from the two counties to keep it going, and you say you're looking at other counties as well. So my question then turns to any pushback from your customers, the haulers. I assume tipping fees will be a little bit higher coming to a place like this. What about some of those numbers? And again, trying to keep it economically worthwhile. As Representative Baker mentioned, this is a great project, but again, cost could be an issue here.
Mr. Keegan?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, Representatives, thank you for the question. Yeah, it costs more to do this. It costs more because it has to, right? Disposal is relatively cheap. We have landfills, so we know what disposal costs, and we are supportive of landfills as part of a fully integrated system. We're going to need landfills. We're not zero waste. But we also think we can do better with some of our materials. This facility will create domestic energy, right? We're going to produce energy from our food waste. Does it cost more than managing food waste through disposal? Yes. I can go through our project costs essentially, and we've talked to our haulers, and they will charge their customers accordingly because they can't absorb that. So ultimately, it costs the consumer more to manage waste higher in the hierarchy, to produce renewable natural gas and to reproduce biochar versus landfilling. The exact costs, the reason I didn't directly answer the exact cost per CenterPoint customers, because that's beyond my lane, right? That's CenterPoint that would have to talk about that. I can talk about our project costs and the capital investment that we have. We would be putting roughly $45 million of our own capital into this project. So we're very vested and very interested in it. I don't know if I fully answered your question on cost, but it costs more to do things that produce renewable energy from it rather than just disposal.
Commissioner?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, thank you. And Representative, we do have a schedule of our tipping fees. I'm happy to get that information to you and the rest of the committee here. We also, within our contracts, have contractual agreements with respect to funding the facility, and without funding, such as what we're requesting today, we can give you an idea of the tipping fee costs associated with that. So we've got those schedules. I don't want to throw out numbers here today because I want to be accurate in what we provide you, but we do have those current costs of tipping fees and the current anticipated costs based on the funding commitments that we have contractual agreements with. So, what I said earlier was, when we get support, we can directly reduce the cost to the citizens, to the communities, to the constituency we all serve. Without that, that cost will be borne by the citizens within Washington and Ramsey County. But we will get you those tipping fee numbers.
Mr. Keegan, you have a follow-up to that?
I do. Thank you, Mr. Chair. There was a question asked that I forgot to address, was on volumes. And so I wanted to be respectful of that question. But the volumes that we have contracted with Washington Ramsey County will be supplied by Washington Ramsey County. But we've also had expressed interest. We've had interest from other metro area counties as well as counties outside the 7-county metro areas. So we're seeing a lot of interest in this because of what I had said at the outset, was that there's a lack of infrastructure for really really processing this type of material. And this facility is modular. So when we build it, there's a lot of the infrastructure that's ancillary, the pipeline coming to the site, the site itself, the buildings, the paving, everything else. But the digester units that I mentioned are modular. We're building 2 of them side by side, which is a total of 75,000 tons of capacity that we can process inbound annually per year of organics. So we can process 75,000 tons a year, and you can add those in roughly 35,000 ton increments. So we would just build another digester right next to the other 2. And so that's kind of how we would handle capacity as the demand increases, because I do think we're going to see increasing demand based on what I'm hearing in the marketplace.
Representative Anderson, do you have a follow-up? You're good. All right. Representative Murphy.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Rep. Johnson. So in our area, in Perham and Alexandria, we have solid waste burners. And so we're burning, everything in those solid waste burners. And, at the end of the day, we get the PFAS erased by about 1,700 degrees. When we run it through there, everything is boiled down to a little bit of charcoal that we end up now using in our roads for the substrate for Class 5. How do you compare your digesters versus that type of technology?
Mr. Keegan.
Mr. Chair, Representative, thank you for the question. They're different tools in the toolbox, and I think we need all of them. I compare them, one's a screwdriver and one's a wrench. And what I mean by that is, we work with waste energy facilities. They typically, especially in this country, need disposal at the back end of their ash, right? They're not typically reusing their ash here. Some other countries have worked with that, but we need disposal. So we've built disposal facilities in this state for disposing of the ash from the waste energy facilities. Waste energy facility capacity is limited. It's challenging, as you know, to permit a new one. We've seen one waste energy facility close down. They're also very expensive. If you were to build a new waste energy facility, it's in the hundreds of millions. Our project's $100 million. So I would say they're more capital intensive than our project, and they're expensive as well. But I'd say they're similar in that sense versus disposal, right? You're producing energy from those waste energy facilities, but that costs you money. And it's, just another tool in the toolbox. I don't really see this competing with that. Like I said, there's not enough capacity. I think in the metro area, we roughly have enough waste energy capacity for 50% of the volume. So 50% is going to landfills, and this is really just taking out the food waste, which is about 25-30% of what's in the black bin, the garbage can. This is taking that food waste and producing renewable energy for it. We will still need landfills, and we will still need waste energy facilities.
Commissioner Miron.
Yeah, thank you, and I appreciate that question. Recycling and Energy Board, we do produce what we call refuse-derived fuel. We have contractual agreements with Xcel Energy for delivering that refuse-derived fuel there. It's interesting to note your question with respect to the reduction in contamination of PFAS, because the power companies in our negotiations with those contracts for them to accept refuse-derived fuel actually required us this past year to carry an insurance policy that insures them from any contamination within the products that we're delivering. So, we were required to go out and secure a private company insurance policy to cover any liability that they may have by accepting our refuse-derived fuel. And again, that added cost to the citizens within Ramsey and Washington County to provide that assurance to Xcel Energy. And, we are working with them. Our contracts run through 2027, the year 2027. We'll continue to work with Xcel Energy to continue, hopefully, to utilize the refuse-derived fuel that we can produce. But that, again, is one of the reasons why we're pursuing additional technology, because as power companies move to carbon-free energy and they have their own goals, the waste to energy becomes at risk. And we still need a place to go with what we're producing in the way of refuse-derived fuel.
Representative Murphy.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a couple follow-ups. I don't know the answer to this. Are organics, can they run through the solid waste burner as well? I mean, I'm sure they gobble up just like anything else.
Commissioner Mira?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, prior to this effort that Washington and Ramsey County has been undergoing, the food waste was going into the refuse-derived fuel cycle and being delivered. It certainly degrades the refuse-derived fuel. As you can imagine, food waste, organics has a much higher moisture. It doesn't necessarily burn as well. You know, so I think we're getting into a technology that makes better use of the material, the waste material that is being produced.
Representative Murphy.
Just one last follow-up. In our area, I've got more lakes than anyone in the state. We have well over 1,200 lakes in the area that I service. And so this is why the technology for the burners has looked well for us. We anticipate burning up our landfills. And so that's part of the plan, is that everything would go through here and we would burn up the landfills eventually. And so it's a 7-county effort just in Perham, and with all solid waste coming there. So just food for thought. Thank you.
Sounds good. Representative Wiener.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Biochar, I actually am very interested in it. Actually, not just interested, understand the science behind it. You know, our fertile soil through most of the West was the result of fires. Grassland would burn off. It was historic. It's not something new, but it supplemented our soil. So it is a interesting development that we're looking at that again, because I think it is a good supplement for our soils. When you mentioned that, I think you said it was either and or, but the natural gas would supply up to 2,500 homes. Is that on top of making biochar or instead of making biochar?
Mr. Keegan?
Mr. Chair, Representative, those are both products, so it's on top of. It's an and. We would produce 200,000 MMBTU per year of renewable natural gas, and that's the equivalent of those 2,500 homes. In addition to that, we would produce around 8,000 tons of biochar per year, and that biochar would be used for those things we talked about with the soil amendment. So it's an and.
Representative Wiener?
Okay. Along with this, if you're making natural gas, then are you also selling credits? Because as far as I can remember, and maybe staff can help me out here, but we don't view some of those things as carbon neutral in Minnesota. And sometimes the developers can sell carbon credits to like California. So is that something that's going to be done with this project?
Mr. Keegan?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, Representative, yes, those carbon credits are kind of broadly called attributes, is what they call them, and they are sold. So we sell two things with the renewable natural gas. We sell the molecule, which is the thing you light on fire, and then we sell the attributes, which is sort of the benefit of it being renewable. It's the same thing on the biochar side. You sell the physical biochar to be mixed in with the soil, and then you sell the attributes to that biochar, which is carbon sequestration. And there's different companies that are interested in those. In the case of the renewable natural gas, both Centerpoint and Excel are interested in those attributes. So they would be buying the attribute and the molecule. So they would buy both, and that's the end market for that. In the case of biochar, that's more of an emerging end market, right? So it's being developed, and we've had Xcel Energy's interested in the attributes for the biochar as well. And the physical product, we've had a close partnership on this project with SMSC, Shakopee Mdewakanton Sioux Community, and we've worked closely with them and have been and will continue to work with them on opportunities to use this biochar in their products.
Representative Wiener?
Thank you. My next question then, and it refers to something Representative Baker had talked about a little bit. I was one of those companies, or I was part of one of those companies that supplied Benson Energy with wood chips. And that technology was effective in England, was copied here in Minnesota, used for a certain amount of time. And that was all delivered by semis. So has there been a study, or has anybody put a pen to paper on the collection of this? Because I'm really curious to know if you're talking about, you talked about picking up before the house, after the house, what is the cost per collecting this material versus what is produced?
Mr. Keegan?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, Representative, I don't have exact costs, but I can talk broadly about what those costs are, and hopefully that'll address your question. But the materials are already being collected at your curb, right? So they are part of the waste to come around and pick up the cart, and our cart has food in it. And if they're coming around to pick up the cart with organics in a compostable bag, like Washington Ramsey County is doing it, those bags are in that same cart, and then that gets dumped at their facility, and those bags get sorted out, and then they come to us. So that collection truck is still there. If you go with a separate vehicle, a separate cart, you have 3 carts, let's say, at your curb, then there's a route truck that would come around and collect that. So there'd be collection costs for that route truck that are similar to your collection costs with recycling or with your trash. So I think that's kind of the collection side. I don't know if that addresses your question or if you...
Representative Weiner.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I guess I'm kind of putting it into comparison to when on a cold winter day in Minnesota at that power plant in Benson, and you saw literally, 30, 40 trucks lined up to drop material. And you look at the energy that it took to get the wood there. You took the energy that was being burned while the material was waiting to be dumped. And overall, you went, is this cost effective? So even if you're picking up the material and you're doing it along with something else, there's still an expense. So that's, and I understand that'd be hard to break down and say this is X amount for this material, X amount for this material, but there's got to be a way to do it that you justify, say this much energy is being consumed to collect and bring it to the site versus this is much is being produced. I mean, the cause and effect of everything that we do, how much energy are you going to put into something versus how much energy are you going to get out of it?
Representative Weiner, was that a question or a statement?
Yes.
Okay. All right. And maybe, Commissioner Murin?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair and Representative, for the question. Really, there are no additional collection costs associated with the organic material we're collecting. So, whatever garbage hauler a resident has, that garbage will be picked up the same as it always has been. It's just included in that garbage pickup will be the compostable bags. The added cost comes into play at our facility or at a transfer station where those loads are delivered, and then the technology there is the added cost that we've invested in to separate those organic bags and the food scraps from the existing trash. So there are no additional trucks waiting. There are no additional trucks making rounds like we saw in the early days of recycling, where there was a separate, the truck that came around to pick up the recyclables. That type of thing is not happening with this program. This program coincides and works well with our existing garbage pickup and garbage haulers. It's where it's being delivered is where we've added costs to that. And that's reflected in our operating costs. We're recovering more and more recyclables from the waste stream that is being used to cover that cost. We're estimating and calculating our tipping fees, which was an earlier question, to make sure that we cover those costs. So that our facility is self-sustaining as well. There's been a number of questions asked about landfills, and I appreciate Mr. Keegan's response that landfills are still necessary, but we know there's limited capacity of landfills, and we know how difficult it is to permit landfills. The work that we're doing really is to extend the life of those landfills, existing landfills, avoiding maybe the costly procedure and environmental impact of additional landfills. So, that's one of the real advantages of the program, and we're cognizant of that, as we work towards zero waste within Minnesota. I happen to be a dairy and crop farmer in Washington County as well. These soil amenities are something that are very attractive and important, but I want to make sure as we look at biochar and as we look at land applying biochar that we've learned from the lessons that we've seen out in Michigan and other areas of the country where, contaminants have been spread because of land application. And the research, and we've been very intent on following the research and the work that's being done by DEMCON to potentially eliminate those contaminants so that we don't cause more of a spread of contaminants across our landscape. Certainly I don't have a desire to have my cows eating corn from contaminated biochar and then, finding out that I've got PFAS in the milk that I'm, care deeply about and are putting into the marketplace for human consumption. So we're looking at that. I can tell you our board is asking the same kind of quality questions that you're asking here. We've looked at these things, we've researched them, and we're happy to share as much of that information as we possibly can with you because you're asking good questions and they're well thought out questions. I hope that you've received this flyer. It's kind of a front and back flyer that we sent out that answers a lot of questions. As was pointed out by Representative Hollins, we welcome visitors and really pride ourselves in the transparency of the operation, in the technology that we've invested in and the service that we provide residents here in Washington and Ramsey County. And I'll just make note too that
Commissioner,
all of the.
Can I just pause you for a you're doing great, but if you could kind of tighten it up a little bit, we do have some other bills we'd like to get to, so thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Yep. Representative Jones. I didn't mean to totally shut you down, but there we go. All right, I guess I did that. Representative Jones.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Commissioner. I found that very interesting, so thank you. I did have a question with regards to the definition of refuse-derived fuel. Is that so I have two questions. I'll just ask them, and then I'd like to get the answer. Refuse-derived fuel, is that just the methane that's coming off of landfills that is captured? And then second, is the RNG that comes from an anaerobic digester cleaner than refuse-derived fuel?
Keegan or Commissioner.
Yep, Mr. Chair, I'll answer the first question with respect to refuse-derived fuel. So as you can imagine from the own waste that's created within your household or the municipal solid waste that's created here at the Capitol, that is all delivered to the Recycling and Energy Center in Newport, okay? And so, that material goes on various conveyors. We have different technology involved, magnetic technology, wind technology that we utilize to separate materials so we can pull out all of the recyclables that we possibly can, the plastic, the aluminum, the steel. That all becomes a value which helps reduce our tipping fees for the residents we serve. The remaining material is shredded. And we pull out all kinds of bulky materials such as mattresses, and we're doing work on that scale as well. But the material then that's shredded is called refuse-derived fuel. You can imagine paper, some food scraps, obviously, that are still going through the other waste material within our waste stream, and that is shredded then and delivered to Xcel Energy. And our facility actually pays for that delivery. So we, it's kind of an interesting thing because we're creating a product that has value, as an energy source, but we're paying Excel Energy to take that, and we're delivering it at our cost.
All right. Representative Acom. Or Representative Jones, are you good?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Commissioner. I just have one other point. I just really want to commend you really for taking kind of a life cycle analysis of this whole thing. I mean, I think your point particularly of, landfills are expensive, they're hard to permit, and that isn't necessarily reflected in the tipping fees that we currently pay. And so really thinking that full spectrum is really important when we're thinking about our waste system. So taking out organics can help extend that life, I think, is important. And the fact that we're getting good quality products from waste is, I think, that's something that a lot of Minnesotans would think is a no-brainer.
Representative Acom.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I,
Chair Acom,
oh,
sorry.
no.
That's all right.
I'm not a chair today. Thanks for the robust conversation. I would have never thought we would have, had an hour-long conversation for a bill that's really only 8 lines long. But I think the only thing missing today is Victoria Reinhardt. She has been a voice for this project, and so I think for me, she's the only thing that's missing. Really appreciate all the partnerships and the work that has gone into it. I have just one very brief question, and that's in terms of federal funding. I know that initially this project had gotten some federal funding, and wondering what the status is of that, and if that might be rolled back because of the Trump administration.
Commissioner Mira.
Yep, Mr. Chair, Representative, thank you for that question. Actually, I had a meeting on that yesterday with some congressional staff. We have had a commitment through the EPA, which provides grant funding to the Minnesota Pollution Control Agency. There is funding that's committed that, has been frozen. We're not sure where it's at. Currently, MPCA has indicated to us that the money is available, but we're working through those congressional level discussions with that. We're in the process of drafting a letter about our requests to make sure that that money is there for us when needed. So we're not currently within our contractual agreements. We're not in dire straits that money has to be here by the end of June. But we want to make sure that that money is available. It's been committed. And we believe that we will be recipients of that funding. But it does come from the EPA to the MPCA here in Minnesota to our Recycling and Energy Board. None of that goes directly to the private industry here. It's coming directly to the Recycling and Energy Center.
Chair Acom.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I bet there's a few people around this table that might sign that letter. So if we can be of any help, let us know. Thank you. Appreciate your project.
Representative Johnson, to your
Thank
bill.
you,
Just wrap it up.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, members. Thank you for Representative Hollins for joining this and being a co-author and bringing up that it is a bipartisan bill that I believe everybody who actually learns more about it gets behind. Some key information I just want to leave with, and I'll wrap it up. It's a $100 million project. We are asking for $10 million. So there's a lot of other partners playing a part of this. We have a problem that we're trying to solve. We have a problem and a challenge. That is diversion of landfills. That is what we're working on solving. There's been many steps along the way. This is the next step. It is actually in this effort of reducing garbage in landfills, we're producing energy, and we're also making sure we address clean water. Because if we can divert, we can reduce the danger of contaminated water, and that's what we're achieving. We're just looking for your support and as we move forward in making this a better state. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Johnson. With that, House File 701 as amended is laid over. Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
All right. Next, we have House File 1226, Representative Igo. And I believe, Representative Hollins, you might be joining in on that as well. There we go, I guess. All right.
Like, it's going to be confusing, which, like... Which party I'm even playing for.
Representative Igo, you want to move your bill?
Yes, Mr. Chair, I will move that House File 1226 be laid over.
All right. Representative Igo moves that House File 1226 be laid over. And I believe you have an A2 amendment as well to get the bill in the shape that you and Representative Hollins would like get the bill in.
That is correct, Mr. Chair. I have a technical amendment. I'd like to move the A2 amendment for consideration.
All right. Representative Igo moves the A2 amendment. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Say no. All right. Your bill as amended, Representative Igo.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Members, the bill in front of us today is securitization. I know many members of this committee have probably already heard this bill in the past, but we're back, bringing it back again, and I'm thankful to have Representative Hollins, my co-author, joining me on the bill today because it is a bipartisan, good policy bill for the state of Minnesota. So securitization is an affordable tool used in more than 30 states in case of unforeseen events, such as natural disasters, man-made disasters, or devastating storms that affect utility customers and result in extraordinary and unavoidable cost. This is made possible by enabling the extraordinary cost to be spread over a longer and more manageable time frame. These costs are financed at low interest rates through the utility's ability to issue low-cost, long-term, AAA-rated bonds. This legislation is only for regulated natural gas utilities and does not affect electric or water utilities or municipal utilities. This legislation creates the regulatory and legal framework needed to enable regulated natural gas utilities to seek securitization and allow the utility the option to petition to the PUC to issue long-term bonds. Customer protections, public accountability, and transparency are provided through required regulatory oversight by the PUC, which includes stakeholder input. The Public Utilities Commission has the authority to determine if the petition is reasonable and will provide customers financial savings and is in their best interest. Then the PUC would approve utility issue the bonds. The PUC Commission would monitor securitization through the entire duration of the cost recovery and bond repayment. Ideally, securitization is a tool that would never need to be used, but should we have the availability and an emergency arises, it would be good for Minnesotans to have this benefit to help keep costs low. So with that, I'll turn over to my co-testifier then and co-author on the bill, Representative Hollins.
Representative Hollins?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Representative Igo, for having me up here. I'm really just here as moral support, honestly, but the one thing that I really wanted to emphasize is that the PUC has a lot of control over this situation, so there are protections for ratepayers. So I want to make sure that we recognize the PUC has to find extraordinary events the extraordinary event costs are reasonable, that issuing extraordinary event bonds are just, reasonable, and in the public interest, and that the proposal bond sale would lower cost to consumers and achieve significant savings. So this isn't sort of a free-for-all for the utility companies. It's really being well-regulated and in the interest of the customers.
All right, thank you, thank you. And we do have some testifiers that have signed up. Eric Swanson with Winthrop and Weinstein. Or we have Jason Lewis from CenterPoint Energy. How about you?
Sorry.
All right.
Sorry, Chair. Chair, other.
You want to introduce yourself for the committee?
Yep. Jason Luce, I'm the Associate General Counsel at CenterPoint Energy. Thank you, Chair, representatives. A special thanks to Representatives Igo and Hollins for this bipartisan bill. I'm here speaking in support of House File 1226. As I mentioned, I'm the Associate General Counsel at CenterPoint Energy in Minnesota. We have over 900,000 customers in Minnesota. We provide natural gas service to those customers. This bill provides the Public Utilities Commission with an optional tool. If the Utilities Commission finds it's in the best interest of the customers, not the company, they can use this tool. Currently, our company is using this tool in Texas on a large storm recovery. We're estimating about $50 million in savings to our customers. For details on the bill, we have Eric Swanson from Winthrop and Weinstein here today to provide answers to those questions and give you a bit more information.
Sounds great, thank you. Right, Eric Swanson, if you want to come to the testifiers table and introduce yourself and.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, committee members. My name is Eric Swanson, work with Winthrop and Weinstein, and I'm happy to be here today to testify on behalf of CenterPoint Energy and in support of House File 1226. Why securitization is a question that's pretty easy to ask and I think pretty easy to answer. There are times when unforeseen and extraordinary events happen, and they happen in a hurry, and they can impose serious burdens on natural gas utilities and our customers. Obviously, priority one is keeping the gas flowing, and that means sometimes incurring extraordinary costs to do so. And while current law provides some means for the utilities and the commission to ease the burden essentially on customers, securitization provides one more tool in the toolbox, and for those of you keeping score at home, I think that's twice we've said that phrase now today. One more tool in the toolbox that may make sense and can provide a lower cost option for customers, while at the same time it protects the financial integrity of the utility. So in that sense, it really is a win-win. As Mr. Luce mentioned, CenterPoint has used securitization in other states and has saved their customers millions of dollars by using this tool. What the bill does is provide a process to ensure that if an unforeseen event occurs, the utility can request this tool be used, and the commission can approve it if it determines there are benefits to customers and that this option is better than the other options that might be available. A couple of the key features of the bill that I'd highlight, it's entirely optional. The utility may ask permission to go through this process, doesn't have to, and the commission may approve it, but only after making certain specified findings. Most importantly, that there are demonstrated benefits to customers from securitizing. In the event the utility does seek to securitize, this process will allow other interested parties like the Department of Commerce, the Attorney General's Office, low-income customer advocates to weigh in and give their views as to whether this is the right tool for these particular costs. And then, as was mentioned earlier, the utility still has the burden of demonstrating first and foremost that the costs were reasonably and prudently incurred. If they weren't, the debate's over. If they were reasonably and prudently incurred, then the utility's still going to need to show that in this case, securitization is the right tool for recovery of those costs. So that's really the bill in a nutshell. Happy to answer questions, and we have others from the company here if you throw a question at me that I can't answer.
All right, are there any questions for the testifiers? Is there any members from the public that would like to say their piece on this bill? All right, seeing none, Representative Igo, to your bill.
Do you want to make any closing comments first?
Oh, sure.
Or Representative Hollins.
We're going to let him close out his bill.
There you go.
One thing I just wanted to say, because I think maybe members from my side of the aisle are looking at me like, why am I up here doing this? But the reality is, right, most of the people in my district have gas as one of their primary sources, and they can't bear the burden of these freak accidents and storms happening. Like, they cannot afford something. Ideally, yes, I would love for them to all change to solar and wind and all these different things, but that's not reality right now. And so I have to look out for the people in my district who are, who are impacted by this. And so I really do believe in this, and if we can ease that burden a little bit on the people in my district and across the state, I think it's important and we should do it. Thank you.
Representative Igo.
Well, thank you, members. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Representative Hollins, for speaking this. And again, this is showing a good bipartisan message that, greater Minnesota and metro Minnesota can come together and realize that this is good policy. And I think one of the lines that was said earlier in the testimony that's really important is this is putting customers before companies. And that's how this whole regulation, this bill is set up, that if this isn't going to take care of the customers, then it's not going to happen. But having this in place is good security for those people. And Representative Hollins said it best. I mean, anything could happen, but a lot of people, whether you're living right here in St. Paul, or whether you're up on the Iron Range, things happen that you can't hold and bear the brunt to. Cost of energy is one of the most important things in people's lives every single day. And keeping this stable is incredibly important to them. So if there's factors that we can't control that change that, having this policy in place is going to give security to Minnesotans and keep their affordability and reliability in mind. So with that, I would encourage support from the committee and hope we can keep moving this one forward. Thank you.
Good. All right, with that, House File 1226, as amended, is laid over. Thank you, Representative Igo and Hollins. All right, next on the docket, we have House File 22. Could have got that on photo. House File 2248, Representative Sexton. We have two folks that are signed up, if you both want to join the testifiers table.
Sure. Unless you guys want to sit next to each other.
Yeah, we're.
Doesn't matter. Chair Swazinski and Chair Akam, I'm going to apologize ahead of time. A bit of a frog has jumped in my throat today, but we'll proceed anyway.
All right, and it looks like you might have some things sitting behind us, Representative Sexton, behind us.
Oh, yes.
Yes, okay.
Yes. As a freshman, I'm into healthy treats, so bagels for everyone
All
after
right.
we're done, or if you'd like to get up and get them now, that'd be fantastic.
Sounds great, sounds great. So Representative Sexton, would you like to move your bill?
I would like to move my bill.
Okay, Representative Sexton moves House File 2248 to be laid over. Representative Sexton, to your bill.
Thank you, Chair Swazinski. Thank you, Chair Akam, and fellow members of the Energy, Finance, and Policy Committee. Today I'm requesting to move House File 2248, large energy facilities, in front of the committee, which we're doing now. This bill updates the storage size limit, dictating when a certificate of need will be required for a natural gas storage facility. As we all know, natural gas storage is a vital tool used by our utilities to increase system reliability and mitigate supply risk during the coldest days of the year especially. In addition, it allows the utility to buy and store natural gas when the price is lower and then pass those savings on to our local customers. Furthermore, natural gas storage benefits the customer with increased supply resiliency, lower system cost, and more opportunities to leverage made in Minnesota renewable natural gas, which we heard about to a large extent earlier today. The current statute established in 1974, and I want to repeat 1974 as more than 50 years ago, requires that the storage of 100,000 gallons or more of liquefied natural gas, aka LNG, needs to obtain a certificate of need from the Public Utilities Commission prior to constructing the facility. The time and cost of the public utilities process deters utilities from considering an LNG storage facility as part of their overall reliability enhancement strategy. House File 2248 would update the amount of LNG storage that can be constructed without triggering the need for a certificate of need to 1 million gallons. What this policy or this bill does not do, it does not change any of our permitting requirements. All existing state and local and federal permit requirements do remain in effect. The change only affects the storage threshold that requires the certificate of need. Before turning to my testifiers, I'd like to note that there are several letters of support provided in the packages. This particular request goes along well with our anaerobic digester discussion from earlier. And additionally, the Public Utilities Commission has been consulted on this bill, and they did not raise any concerns. Finally, I'm joined by Mr. John, excuse me, there's that frog. John here, Director of Storage and Planning at CenterPoint, and Ms. Jamie Frisk, Director of Government Affairs at CenterPoint. So thank you.
All right, if your testifiers would like to introduce themselves, and we'd love to hear what you have to say.
Good afternoon. My name is Jamie Fitzke, Director of Government Affairs for CenterPoint Energy. I caught a couple of quizzical looks earlier, so I'll just note that the letters of support that may or may not be in your packet are from LIUNA, the operating engineers, and then also Washington Ramsey County Recycling and Energy, who you just saw up here earlier. So thank you, Chair Swazinski, Chair Akam, and members of the Energy Committee. I'd like to start with a note of thanks to Representative Sexton and Representative Tabke for the bipartisanship that's authorship of this bill. To help explain what this bill does, I'll provide some context on the Certificate of Need. The Public Utilities Commission's Certificate of Need process determines if a very large and costly energy project is needed and is in the public's interest. Typically, projects like this are very large electric generation facilities or transmission lines and are hundreds of millions of dollars and take years for approval and construction. This is not the case here with the storage system that this legislation would allow for. What we're looking for is for a change up to 1 million gallons. The cost of this type of system is around $15 million and a small fraction compared to the other Certificate of Need projects. But what most likely we'd end up wanting to utilize is a modular system. That is actually noted here on the handouts that you have. So the most likely what we would end up wanting to use is 3 to 5 70,000 gallon system. So with that, you're looking at then around 200,000 to 350,000 gallons of storage, and that typically costs around $5 to $10 million. One thing of note is if you're looking for a cost comparison, the footnote of the one-pager gives a really good comparison of what other types of projects are needed, or a certificate of need is needed for that. So the new threshold would still be sort of an apple to cherry comparison for cost, but it allows for relevant storage potential. As I mentioned earlier, a certificate of need determines if it is in the public's interest, and with that, raising the threshold does not give the utility a blank check. The Public Utilities Commission continues to have oversight of infrastructure investments like this through rate case prudency review. What this means is the utility carries the financial risk of building something like this, and then the Public Utilities Commission decides if this was prudent or not of an investment. And then they determine if they would allow or disallow those expenses. We are willing to carry this risk because we see the value of this system. But currently, the added cost of applying for a certificate of need and the time it takes for the process limits the feasibility for these options. Finally, I would like to reiterate that the Public Utilities Commission has been consulted on this bill and has no concerns. This bill does not change any permitting requirements. All existing local, state, and federal permits remain the same. Now I'll hand over the mic to my real expert, my colleague, John Here.
Mr. Here.
Thank you, Chair Swazinski, Chair Holcomb. Good afternoon. My name's, and members of the committee. Sorry, this is not my normal thing. My name's John Here. I'm Director of Storage and Supply Planning at CenterPoint Energy. I'm a professional engineer and graduate of the University of Minnesota. I have 40 years of experience in energy, power, and natural gas distribution and storage, and a lot of experience, a lot of that time was in LNG and LNG codes and standards. We are very happy to see this proposed amendment to the definition of large energy facility. I can tell you in all the years I've worked in LNG, a 100,000 gallon LNG storage tank is not a large energy facility. LNG is natural gas that's been chilled to about minus 260 degrees below zero, so it can be stored as a liquid, much more densely and much cheaper than storing as a gas. A typical LNG storage tank on the outside looks much like a propane tank, a large propane tank, but in fact, it's actually a thermos. It's designed to contain the cold LNG and keep it cold as we store it. So why is CenterPoint Energy interested in this amendment? You know, in our business, and it's been said in this room already today, we are laser focused on how do we make sure all of our customers have energy on the very coldest days Minnesota can throw at us. Those are the peak times when we need all our assets working, all the energy we can provide. We think that having the option to site small-scale LNG may give us better opportunities, more cost-effective, more reliable, and than adding on pipeline systems, for example, or other options we may have. But the current statute at 100,000 gallons, it just doesn't allow amortizing a big enough storage and making those projects worthwhile to pursue. It adds time and it adds cost to go through that certificate of need process. So we think giving us a little more latitude to look at that option more freely will be very beneficial. And in addition, the Public Utilities Commission has just come out with an order asking gas utilities to do integrated resource planning. And so over the next year or two, we'll be putting together integrated resource plans for how do we meet our needs going forward, laying them out at the Public Utilities Commission, and having the ability to include small-scale LNG in addition to other options we propose in that resource plan, I think will be a real benefit. And as my colleague said, and Representative Sexton said, none of the safety or siting permit things change. This is only about the certificate of need, and it only requires a change in the definition of the large energy facility. Thank you, And we're ready, that concludes my testimony, and we're available for questions. So thank you.
You did excellent. Representative Kraft.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And Representative Sexton, thanks for bringing the bill. Couple things. One is I believe that this kind of thing would also give CenterPoint, and maybe CenterPoint wants to answer, the ability to store more RNG like that could come from the anaerobic digester that we just spoke about. And then the other question would be, you've kind of made a request that you need something around most likely 250,000, 300,000. Why then ask for $1 million? Why not 10 million? Why 5? Give some, because going from 100,000 to $1 million is a 10x. It's a pretty big jump. So can you give some more on that as well?
Ms. Fiske?
Chair Swedzinski, Representative Kraft, excellent questions. So yes, maybe I'll start with the first one, and then I'll partially probably answer the second one, and then also punt a little over there. I do believe this gives us some nice flexibility for our system with renewable natural gas. One thing to keep in mind is, probably not surprising, is there's fluctuation in gas demands throughout the year. When it's really cold, you need more of it. When it's in the summertime, there's not as much of it, or at least not as much being consumed. The interesting thing about anaerobic digesters is, and this is across the board, anaerobic digesters and then other ways that you produce RNG, that's 365 days a year. People aren't stopping eating, and then also farms, wastewater facilities, landfills, all these other places where you could derive RNG from, they don't have ebbs and flows. It is 365. So that is one opportunity I could see for us. Additionally, if there's ways for us to then also store and then dispatch RNG more cost effectively, that's another option for us. For us, this is just one of those ways that we can more cohesively look at the opportunities that are presented to us. And as an organization, I mean, RNG is definitely part of our portfolio. The second question was why this amount? I mean, I'm first going to say, like, $1 million was a nice round number. But we had gone through, particularly working with our engineering staff, on what would be the most ideal situations for this. Part of it is $1 million is because that's sort of when you start to hit, like, I'll call it like the cost-effective threshold of things too. Past that, you're probably looking at something above $15 million. And for us, we just kind of collectively thought, okay, maybe that's where we draw the line. Maybe I'll turn it over to John here just for some additional color and context on that.
Mr. Here?
Thank you, Chair Swedzinski, Representative Kraft. Yeah, I mean, I think above 1 million gallons, we start to get into, this is a large energy facility. So as my colleague said, it's kind of that break point where below 1 million gallons, really, I think utilities could take the risk and bring that to a rate case without an advanced certificate of need. Above that, I think we would even want to go through that process ahead of time, so.
And then just if I could add to the commentary, would it potentially impact if you had multiple, even if it's the ideal size is 250, if you were to be doing 2 projects at once in different parts of the state, that would benefit this as well. So if you just had one going on, let's say next to the one in the cities, one up north, or something like that, then it would still capture. So that even though, is that in the right thinking, Mr. Here?
Chair Swedzinski, I think the way the certificate of need works, it's a little more site-specific, so it may not do that. But I think we've looked at this in the past, and sometimes you say, we need the facility this size now, but we know it's going to need to be bigger in 3-4 years, and that becomes encompassing in the certificate of need process. You can't just play the game. We'll do 100,000 this year, next year, next year. So,
Representative Kraft. Anything else? All right. Representative Tapke.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, and Representative Sexton for bringing this bill. I'm not going to be quite as bipartisan as Representative Hollins seems to always be now and sit up there with you on this one, but I just appreciate you. Appreciate you bringing this forward. This is a really good thing, especially in conjunction with what we just talked about with the anaerobic digester. It's a great thing for our state and for my district, and I just appreciate everybody's work on it.
All right. Any other questions? Any members from the public that would like to testify? All right. Representative Sexton, to your bill.
Thank you. Well, in closing, I just want to thank all the members, especially Representative Tapke for co-authoring this bill, It's a make-sense bill as we try and transition. This gives us more buffer within, almost like a battery, to be able to store more LNG at one site and make sure that we are still able to support all of our customers. It's new and exciting what we're starting to do with renewable natural gas, and this will help as well. And really it's that focus on resiliency and making sure that we can protect our energy resources here in Minnesota. Thank you very much for your attention today. And I move that we lay this aside, or lay it.
Thank you, Representative Sexton. Representative Kraft, did you?
Yeah, I was just wondering if Representative Sexton's first choice was Representative Hollins and had to back up to Representative Tabke. I don't know.
Ooh, all right. Getting a little spicy. All right, here we go. All right, with that, House File 2248 is laid over. Thank you, Representative Sexton. All right. Members, with that, our agenda is done for today. Our next meeting is Tuesday, March 25th.
Right north of one.
Chair Acom will have the gavel. All right. This meeting, would you like to say something? This meeting is adjourned.